Welcome to Book Spectrum. I'm your host, Chris Cordani. This is where I talk with not only seasoned writers, but those of various occupations across the spectrum. With me is someone who's an entrepreneur. Full disclosure, I've worked with her in the past. She's a published author and known as Coach Lorraine. The book, however, is different from one we talked with her about before. She taught us how to live the rock star lifestyle in the past, but this is something different. It's a story. It's called The Girls from Brooklyn. It's based partially on her own life and experiences in Brooklyn, and of course, in life itself. It's a rather cool story, and we have the author, Lorraine Geraci, on with us now. Welcome to Book Spectrum, Lorraine.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you on, Lorraine. Let's jump right into the story. It centers around three girls who grew up together in Brooklyn. You look back to or at least they look back to the 1960s, which is an interesting time. We're going to get into that. But the three main characters have, let's just say, very different backgrounds, yet they form a real connection together, almost like they knew each other in the past.
Yeah, so basically, again, it is a fiction novel based on a true story, predominantly about the fact that I found my birth mother at the age of 55. And when I did and learned all about what happened back in the 60s when I was born and a little bit more information about who my biological parents were and their backgrounds and the intertwined secrets and lack of communication. It was so bizarre and interesting that I thought it would really be a great opportunity to write about it. And I got to know my birth mother very well. And it was such a great honor to be able to kind of showcase some of the challenges and experiences she went through back in the 60s, being a young woman, as well as what I went through growing up, from the 60s on, having my own daughter and granddaughter. And it was exciting to kind of merge the truisms of different things I went through and also kind of tie it into what she went through at the time we didn't even know each other, right? And all of the things that happened along the way. So I really hope people recognize the fact that not only are there some truisms in there, but it's also a great opportunity for people to look at the magical aspect of things. Magic and fantasy are a passion of mine, and I took that and kind of intertwined it, Chris, into this, storyline that kind of embodies not only family, blood, but it also magic and the strength of within to be whoever you want to be. That's kind of some foreshadowing, right? Long-winded, but you get the story.
It works, and you pretty much went through a nice spectrum of what's going on in the book. So let's break that apart. First, I want to get to this. Jenny, the character who was looking for her birth parents and who was adopted, was the one who was most based on you.
Correct.
Before we get to Jenny and you and the parallels between the two of you, what was it like meeting your biological mother after all these years?
It was pretty surreal. It could have gone two ways. It either went well or it would not go well at all. So I had the opportunity to communicate quite a bit with her after finding her to, get an understanding, lay of the land, understand where she came from and the comfort level she had having communication. Very, very open arms, right? She welcomed me with open arms. I've gotten to see her in person twice. She lives out in Las Vegas. So I actually have another trip coming up to see her again and her friends and other people out there. And I've also met other family members through her too, on her side of the family that I just wound up living near one of them here in Florida during half the year. And I've got to see them and some of their kids. It's just, it exceeded my expectations, honestly.
Well, that's great because a lot of people don't have that same experience meeting their birth parents. Some don't even get to meet them at all.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were braced for some disappointment or maybe some worry about this. Was the connection instant? Was there something, were you very happy to see each other, or did it kind of take a little bit of work?
No, I think the connection was pretty instant. It was just very surreal to kind of see her for the first time. Because funny enough, I come to find out I have a lot of her personality and certain traits, but I look more like birth dad, right? After looking into that mystery and getting photos and things of that nature. There's a lot to be said about all of that because he never knew about me and he passed away a few years ago. So it was a lot more to it that I kind of embellished a little bit in the book. And that's where kind of a fictional stance, kind of, you'll see little offshoots or read little offshoots about, fictional stances from the actual real life events that happen. And obviously, I did find some information about him, and he's a very big part of the book as well. So really cool stuff.
Well, let's get to Jenny, the character who you're based on pretty much. Jenny's one of the three main lady characters, and we'll talk about that. By the way, with me is Lorraine Geraci. She's the author of The Girls from Brooklyn. We're talking about the book. Lorraine, Jenny, like you, was adopted, but at her younger ages, when she was growing up in the 60s, and she started feeling that she was curious. She felt like there was something off a little bit, but then she felt that she may have had a connection with somebody else. And this is what I'm getting, at least from what I've seen in the book. You can always correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I interpret things the wrong way. That's just me. However, that's what books are for, sometimes subject to interpretation. What I'm looking at is Jenny had a lot of curiosities, learned that she was very different from her family, or at least her adoptive family, and she had a real independent streak. What are the parallels between you and Jenny, and kind of where do you two diverge?
It's funny because I have to say, if I were to put a percentage on the realisms of the book itself, where Jenny is concerned, to myself, I'd have to say probably 80%.
So 80% pure Lorraine, is that what it is?
Right. Yep. And others I may have, offshooted, embellished, changed up a little bit, things of that nature. But yeah, I think the difference that I felt was not as clairvoyant and magical as what Jenny felt in the book, right? So that's where some of the fictionality came in, where Jenny started realizing, even at a young age, that she had some abilities that most other people didn't have.
The telekinesis, the mental powers,
read minds, be very clairvoyant, and in some cases feel like she had some handle on moving things with her mind, things like that. So there's a lot of that developing as she grew up. So not only did she feel a little bit different from the personalities of the family that she grown to love as her own, from the time she was a baby, but now add those magical odd things coming into play, and now she really feels different, right? And kind of pushes it to the side, and has a normal life a little bit, and then realizes that not only does she have it, but now her daughter has abilities too. So she sees something very interesting in correlating it between DNA and lineage, right? So now she becomes even more curious as she gets older about birth family and her parents, because she never really cared when she was younger. She was fine. She was happy. You know what I mean? She knew she was adopted, all fine and good. But as time goes on and things change and you get older, you become more curious and want to find ways to really, you know what I mean? Let me find out some answers to some questions now. So that fast forwards into time and how she really recognizes the importance of her major abilities and how it intertwines with her future birth family that she finds.
Wait a minute. So since 80% Lorraine in there might be that chance. So I'm going to ask the question. Do you have any of those cool mental powers like telekinesis or
I wish I did, but I will tell you this. One of the things I have realized, especially over the last 10 years, is the ability to be able to use manifestation and positive thinking and focus on energies and bringing things to you that you either want or think about or find important. And far from perfect at it, but I have noticed that in a lot of areas, things just kind of happen because I wanted them to, and I believe that they would. So if you want to look at that as kind of magical, right? Being able to divert energy into a direction to have things happen the way you want, right? That's important. And I think many people have used different ways of, whether it's law of attraction or, energy in general or scientific methods and things of that nature I think we have so many more capabilities than we know what to do with. And I do think that deep within most of us, there's the ability to do things that we have no idea we can.
So
Haven't tapped into that yet, but I would like to think that there is some truism to a lot of these odd things that happen to people, right?
So when you do kind of control your future or what's happening around you, do you have to twitch your nose like Samantha? Uh,
I wish it was that easy.
yeah.
No, you have to be in the mental space to believe that you can't just say things out loud and be like, "Yeah, I'm really happy today."
I was
Yeah,
kind of hoping for the telekinesis, though. This way,
yeah,
we could make it a video interview and have you move things,
right.
or
Wouldn't
do
that
the
be
Vulcan
cool?
mind
Oh,
meld with me. Yeah.
I would be snapped up by NASA if that happened, right? Think about it. The government would be at my doorstep if that were the case, right? So I don't know if I'd be very open to share that, even if it really did happen in real life.
That's a good
But
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
you'd be taken in for tests. There we go. Or
exactly. I feel like, listen, there's been a lot of movies created on people that
yes,
had look at them all. In every single one of them, a lot of the times they are pigeonholed, right?
yep.
Or brought to labs or,
They're
lose their
yes,
rights.
yes.
No, not me.
They had to
So
be studied. So there we go.
exactly. Look at all that. Even some crazy shows on television now have all this. So, it's even look at it, even if you're a Harry Potter fan, looking at the muggles, the way the muggles were looked at. Yeah, you don't have any powers. Ew, you're not a pure blood. And there was always some for lack of better words, bullying or, really having the ability to kind of look at people differently. Look, it happens right to everything. Diversity goes way beyond what people think. And it's just a matter of kind of, how do you deal with people if that were to happen? If that was really true, I'm going off on a crazy tangent, but if that was really true, we'd be in a very different place, wouldn't we? So
That's a good point. And but the character Jenny does have some mystic powers, and it does come into
yeah,
play with the rest of the story. And I don't want you to give up a lot on this one, but I
yeah,
do want to talk about the other two girls, the connection that the three of them have. It's funny how when some people meet, some instantly connect as if they knew each other before in past lives, or perhaps even seem to find a way to connect in each life, even if they're just drawn to each other or they happen to be in close proximity every time. It's just strange how some people have an instant connection, and your three girls
Mhm.
here seem to have had that.
Yeah. Well, the three main characters is Jenny, Annie, and Michael, and the Jenny plays, the daughter, myself. Annie is birth mother and Michael's birth father. However, Casey in the book represents my daughter. And so the three women, you know what I mean, in the book, as time goes on throughout it, later in the book, you'll find how they come together to kind of become heroes, right? And so that kind of is place trigger. But as far as the three main characters, it focuses on more of like telling the story. Jenny tells her story, Annie tells her story, Michael tells his story. And then a lot of the book, from I'd say 60% into the end is narrated by a narrator telling the story about what happens when everybody gets together.
Lorraine, you chose the 60s. Now, I understand the character is based on you. You could have picked sometime around our era, but you didn't, even though, as I said, the character is based on you. Why did you choose the 60s rather than, let's say, the cooler period when we grew up?
Well, the 60s were really to showcase when I was born. That's to when Annie, who's plays the birth mother in the book, it was from her perspective. She was a young woman in the 60s, and going back there was to showcase her perspective on what she was going through and the times during then in which she, had her own dealings in her life and then met the birth father, through all of those different life events that happened to her in Brooklyn. So that's why we went back there. And then also that's where Michael was, the birth father, and then, into the 70s and 80s. And we kind of inadvertently jig-jagged between the 60s to really to 2023 throughout the entire book, if you look at it that way.
You did say that, again, this is based loosely on your life, and there's a nice element of mysticism, magic, and adventure. You've always said you had a passion for that. Now, you did say that in the beginning of the interview, so let's explore that a little more. Um, what what kind of when you were a young lady, a young girl reading books like this, what what got you in that kind of genre?
I was always drawn to anything that had to do with fantasy, magic, superpowers, or, things that took place in the medieval era. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, those are
always,
great.
yeah, it would always fascinate me. I would never want to live during those times, especially knowing what we know now, right? But it
Well,
was, yeah, it was pretty cool to see all the different things, all the Merlin, movies that were out there or shows that emulated during that time period. I've watched things on television. So it was always, and then you get into the whole Harry Potter series. I'm just one of those really big nerds when it comes to the Harry Potter books and movies. And so are my family members, especially my daughter. And of course, my granddaughter now has no really choice other than to wear Hogwarts. And she did pick her own at 9 and 3/4 months old. She picked her own house, and she is a Hufflepuff. So she's not a Gryffindor like her grandma, but that's okay.
well, you're
As
gonna have
long
to help me out a little bit on this, and I got to
as
be honest with you, Lorraine. This is a book show. I have never read or seen a Harry Potter book or movie.
oh my gosh!
You, you know what? The
Wow.
only thing I know about the Harry Potter franchise is, well, I know two things. Two things. One, Harry is in no way related to Colonel Sherman T. Potter, so
That's
that
correct.
is true. Okay.
That is true. Yes.
The second thing I know is Ten Pole Tudor's lead singer Edward Tudor Pole was in one of the movies, but his part was cut out for the actual airing of the movie, but it's still in the DVD. Edward Tudor Pole. That's his name, Ed Tudor Pole.
Oh
So how
my
about that?
goodness!
Those
Wow.
are the only things I know about that franchise.
Interesting. Well, listen, if you have a taste for magic, the books and the movies were very well done to tell a story. The story was really pretty neat how they went back and forth. I happen to enjoy it. A lot of other people do. And the author that wrote it, I mean, kudos to her
Yeah,
for, all she did. And even
big
not too far away in Universal Studios in Orlando, they have the Harry Potter themed two parks, right? In two different parts of Universal and Islands of Adventure. So well done and spot on. You feel like you're actually in the movie. It's just incredible what they've done with the entire storyline.
well, big fan of J.K. Rowling for a lot of reasons, but the main one is this woman just she had nothing for a while.
Yeah,
She was on welfare, trying to take care of her kids, and
yeah.
she just thinks of something, writes about it, gets her rear end out there, and pushes this, and somebody picks up on it, and now this whole idea she had, the world she created, has become a huge franchise, and it's probably going to last for another generation or two.
Oh, I would think so. It just, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So it really helped kind of like, germinate the thought process of the fact that I've, loved all of that, but kind of taking it more into a less wandy bling, magician type or to more of a utilization of the mind and energy in ways to manipulate and do things that maybe we really can do. We just don't know how. So yeah, it hopefully the message comes across in that aspect because I really find that we have a lot more magic within us to get things done and accomplished than we give ourselves credit for. I think there's the metaphor that's really aligns there, and the other message of the book, and I even say it at the end, is that family is not always determined by blood.
No,
So
that's true too, and a lot of people don't realize the family can be anybody. Sometimes it's
yeah,
the adoptive family. Sometimes you grow up and you
yeah,
maybe don't have all your family left, but you have neighbors that become your family.
right,
You have a lot of people.
yeah,
Any family comes in different ways. You see, like your
yeah.
blood family, and you have your other families. That's kind of nice.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah. So that's really it. But I would definitely encourage anybody interested to. As a matter of fact, it's on Amazon, both hard and soft cover and e-version. And I am halfway done, Chris, with recording it. I'm
Oh.
narrating it myself, and it will be available on Audible before the end of the year.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we're going to have the actual book on audiobook with you, the author, doing
Yeah,
the voiceover. Now that
yeah,
is fantastic. That's going to be awesome.
yeah.
Where can people who are listening right now find out more about the girls from Brooklyn?
They can go right to Amazon. It's available on there to look into and purchase. I also have access to that and the other books that I have written, as well as coaching and consulting services at cpclorraine.com. And I have my own website. So the books can also be ordered through that as well. So, yeah, take a look around and love to help either any individual groups or companies that are looking to really help expand or change the mindset of their teams or employees as well to really even be more productive. And sometimes storytelling is a big way to get goals accomplished.
Absolutely. And thank you again for being with us here on Book Spectrum. Once again, that website for the overall Lorraine Geraci website.
Is cpclorraine.com.
I like that. cpclorraine.com. Again, I'm Chris Cordani. You can find the book on Amazon. It's again called The Girls from Brooklyn. And again, thank you all for listening. I'm Chris Cordani. This is Book Spectrum, and keep those pages turning.